Funny graph, haha. Dota 2 is a game that has sapped my life away and is likely a major component in why I have not had sex yet. Dota 2 is a MOBA, which stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. Other games in this genre include Smite and League of Legends. The only immediate good sales pitch I can give to Dota 2 is that it is significantly better than both of those games. I may have spent 5.2 real-life months playing a video game that I still consider myself mediocre at, but at least I'm not a fucking League player, am I right? Anyway, let's get into the review. I started playing Dota 2 back in middle school, back when my voice was only about half as sexy as it is now, and I still called myself Zombie Face 9. Immediately, I proceeded to indoctrinate my closest friend into the fold, and I will never forgive myself for that. I became so obsessed with the game that I was unironically called the Dota Kid by my science teacher, and merely saying that sentence almost made every blood vessel in my brain deny itself. The only good part about this era of Dota playing is that I found my real and true main, as well as, my entire online friend group from it. Anyways, let's talk about some of the heroes you can play in Dota 2. There are some that are well-designed, cohesive, and even interesting in the lore as well. However, Dota 2 has 121 heroes, meaning that for as many hits as there are, there's gonna be quite a few misses. And for every Jakiro, there is a Tinker. In Dota 2, most heroes are designed around their abilities, and the synergies between those abilities. This makes them engaging and fun to play, and to an extent, interesting to counter and play against as well, in most examples at least. This is without a doubt the main draw of Dota 2. For example, would you like to play as a masked manlet that wields a katana and probably reads way too much Berserk? Well, now you can. Other examples include Batman, a paranoid schizophrenic in a mech suit, a bastard, the god of war, Satan himself, the embodiment of gravity, and a bear. Yes, his entire lore is that he is a bear, and he is able to reliably murder most other units in the game, one-on-one, including Zeus, god of thunder, and an actual star. Alright, let's slow down. I know this review has been segmented at best and completely incomprehensible at worst, so allow me to rein this shit in for a brief amount of time. A match of Dota 2 can, in my humble opinion, be broken up into 5 phases: early game, mid game, late game, hyper late game, and techies game. In the early game, both teams are attempting to gather gold and XP, or CS, or stop the other team from gathering CS. This is called the laning phase, and it's either the most fun or least fun part of the game, depending on who you're playing against or as. After the laning phase, the teams begin to wander the map in search of kills, farm, and map control. The mid-game follows this. At this point, both teams are hitting their power spikes, and team fights are beginning to break out. The game only ever ends here if the game is either a stomp or the players are really good. Therefore, I have only ever seen it in this way if the game is a stomp. After this phase of the game, we enter the late game. At this point, the farming carries have come online, and the game begins to become a toss-up of which team is winning, because a single fight can determine which team wins. At this point, the game becomes really difficult to follow because things just happen and eventually someone loses. If by some ungodly sin, or if the game is below 2000 MMR, the players may find themselves in the hyper late game, where the carries have become fully 6-slotted and it essentially boils down to 2 or 3 beefy boys slapping 2 or 3 other beefy boys with mythical artifacts, while the supports sit on the sidelines and hope they don't get cleaved for 1500 damage. Meanwhile, they wait for the wards to restock so they can get even a crumb of consistent map control that isn't a 2,000 unit radius around their position 1 who has begun to roam the map like tornadoes in Oklahoma. If God decides that he despises 9 people, a techies will be in the Dota game, and presumably that game is not yet over. It enters into a phase of the game only referred to as techies game. At this point, the game could be qualified as a government-mandated form of torture. Even the position 12 Crystal Maiden is building a moon shard, and Roshan could probably take a thermonuclear detonation and not even flinch. Anytime someone dies, they are banished into the grayscale zone, where they will have to sit for up to 2.5 real-life minutes before Ice Frog allows them to play the game again. Unless, of course, they choose to buy back, which should, at this point, cost about the same amount of money as the GDP of Uruguay. I am genuinely convinced that as we speak, there is a techies game going on that has lasted the entire lifespan of Dota 2, and is still going. The players have matured from boys into men, and have not stopped playing Dota since. At this point, all players just want the game to end, but they face down 3 gremlins in a minecart behind an infinitely expanding minefield with immovable will and the desire to endlessly torture 9 poor souls. The techies main is immortal. His purpose is to make games last forever, for life is a prison, and God lost the key a long time ago. Of course, if one does find themselves trapped in eternal purgatory by a techies player's design, they may seek to abandon the game. But this will result in something much worse than death, for if one abandons too many games of Dota, IceFrog will punish them by sending them into the deep, dark pits of low priority, the place where many go, but few return. Be it poor internet, having an actual life, emergencies, or just being a shitty person, all will find themselves in the pit of low priority, where you are restricted to playing with other perpetrators in exclusively the single draft game mode, where you are given 3 heroes to choose from out of the aforementioned 121, and are told to have fun. Oftentimes, one will have to win 5 full games of low priority queue to escape it, meaning a potential 5-hour plus time sink, assuming the very rare chance that you don't just straight up lose. Because remember, when you're locked in low priority, you're locked with the feeders, the levers, and the amazingly toxic scumbags of the worst parts of Dota 2. I am genuinely certain that low priority is just IceFrog attempting to do good on his lore department by creating the closest thing to an in-universe foul fell as humanly possible. The primary method of fun that I find in Dota 2 is without a doubt the concept of item and skill builds. It gives me the tingles I get when I finish a Dark Souls run, except I don't get to savor the run whenever I want. I get it for a total of 5 minutes before one of the Ancients falls, then it's back to level 1 in the next game. Now, most people enjoy building the same item build consistently. I do not agree. It may make for consistent wins, but it's incredibly boring. If I were to play nothing but Phantom Assassin and build Battle Fury, Desolator, and BKB in that order all the time, every game, I would develop severe depression before the 10th game. I play a wide and varied cast of heroes, and I play them in the least optimal positions. If Purge just saw my drafts, he would call the police. When you, however, a casual scrub loser, wants to do things like win and have a reliable, fun experience, when you play Dota, you will likely want a more reliable and more meta item and skill build. For this, Dota 2 provides a large amount of guides made by the players, which can help you learn how to play your hero, and the main difference I have found between a skilled player and a new player is that skilled players don't use these guides. However, that does not mean that you, a scrub, should not use these, because I would much rather have 2 Vlads on a team than a Doom with phase boots and 4,000 gold at the 20-minute mark and no idea what to spend it on. Dota 2 is a game which, from a distance, can look about as easy to comprehend as Nyarlathotep, but trust me, that's an understatement. Despite how complicated it is, Dota 2 sits at the low price of $0. Meaning that a new player will inevitably download it, and will find, as we all do, that you do not pay for Dota 2 with money. Unlike a large portion of games, getting better at Dota 2 relies very little on mechanical skill, and leans heavily into the knowledge department. Professional Dota players could probably recite the play-by-play of a hypothetical game of Pro Dota like a chessbot calculating outcomes. However, you can't just look up a guide or read a book or the wiki, and expect to be able to play Dota 2 like a pro. Because Dota 2 is more complicated than the whole Library of Congress, or at least it could feel that way. Those that are wise will stay in pubs, whereas those that are foolish and seek glory will tread into the deep, dark waters of ranked mode. At this point, I have sunk over 3,780 hours into Dota 2, which is a statement that likely caused the vaginal area of all 2 women watching this video to immediately develop a level of moisture that can be reliably compared to that of Death fucking Valley. I would absolutely love to say that the amount of hours sunk into Dota 2 correlates rather easily with MMR. However, despite this, I still sit rather calmly at what can be considered scrub tier, aka 2k MMR. I have been 2k for over 3 years at this point, and no, I'm not okay. All I need is 1 good win streak and I'll be able to rank up. I'll be 3k in just a minute, please. Now, the experience of ranking up can be summed up semi-reliably in about 5 stages, which align almost perfectly with the stages of grief. Funny how that happens. The first is denial. I do not belong at my rank. I am a much higher rank. I was simply placed here in calibration matches. The second is anger. and it is without a doubt the most common. My goddamn Medusa won't stop farming the jungle. God, just fight at 20 minutes, please. We're gonna lose to this tinker who built Dagon before bots, please. The third stage is depression. Why is my team so bad? Will I be stuck here forever? It's gotta be my team, right? The fourth stage is bargaining, where the poor scrub will find their way to one of many websites under the delusion that their rank is inaccurate, and they will need a little boost. They will then pay way too much money to get legend, and then lose, and lose, and lose, and lose, and lose, and lose, and lose, all the way back down to the trench. The final stage is acceptance. When they find themselves back in the trench again, they will quit ranked and become transcendent. They will play exclusively ability draft and all random deathmatch and no other modes. Dota 2 is a game that devoured my time and my desire to do anything other than Dota. I do not recommend this game, but you should also play it, because the game is dying and I feel like a man on a sinking ship watching the lifeboats go over the horizon. Eventually the queue times will get longer and longer until I am on my deathbed waiting to get one last game as Pause 2 IO in a 2-year long queue. No, I don't have a problem.